Sexy Fish.
There it is.
Hello, we're here live and direct from Southern California.
Hello there, Allison. How are you doing this fine Sunday?
I'm doing fantastic. Spent the weekend with Forbio, so we're all good, right?
Can't get better than that.
Exactly.
A lot of Forbes this weekend.
Komodo George is in the house, huh?
Komodo. That must mean something.
Kevin says he's going to be late because his new kitten is in his lap, and so I guess that means he can't move.
Yep.
Today I am drinking a brown ale. Who makes it? It's a porter? Is a porter and a brown ale the same thing?
I'm not sure they are the same. Same
facts.
color, similar taste. I can go get the bottle and check.
Komodo George has the black screen of death. Yeah, the kitten is cute. Where'd you see the kitten, Sandy? Do a little test recording. All right. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. I don't see anything in that recording. That is not recording anything. I didn't think so. Right? Registry, preferences, record using pass-through.
Oh. George went to the zoo and they had a young Komodo dragon.
Oh,
how cute.
Lovely. My headphones, why is things wrong?
One of the few lizards that can kill you. It is not lovable. I can imagine.
Yes, I'm going to save changes. Why did that? Okay. Nothing has solo on it. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast. It's not recording. What is the problem? Okay. You guys are hearing me through pass-through, possibly Hangout on Air input, possibly NiceCast input.
Most of us are hearing you through the Hangout on Air.
Yeah, I'm thinking of
Kevin.
We will play. No, I am thinking about. This is audio hijack. So this is my mic going into, comes out of pass-through, comes out of NiceCast input, comes out of Hangout on Air input, and then it comes out of my headphones. That's my headphones, the last one. So pass-through should be able to hear things, and pass-through is the input over here in Hindenburg. There's pass-through. You can change it to my mic.
Change it and then change it back. I tickle it.
Yeah. Use function command. That's it. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan with the NosillaCast podcast. Okay, so that's recording. Hi, this is Allison. That doesn't have any of my stuff on it, so this, I'm gonna put it back to pass through.
Oh, you didn't get pass through.
Didn't?
No.
Yeah, I did. Record pass through right there.
I was looking at the one above. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, and it's not working.
No, I'm seeing record.
Yeah. And do you see a waveform in there?
It's too small. I can't really see what's in there.
See, if I do that, does that help? No. There's nothing in there, I can tell you. It's blank.
Looks like it's colored, but...
Yeah, that just says that the track was active. But it is not receiving the input. Why?
Did you change your setup?
No. I changed the inputs over on Hindenburg recently, but I just put them back. What is that? That's not what I want. That's not what I want. Where is what I'm looking for? I can't remember the name of the program. Loopback. If it's not recording, that'll teach other listeners not to come to the chat room to hear Allison. Nice, Andy. That's fabulous. Checking for updates. Remind me later. Major enhancement. Update improve audio capture from VMware Fusion, FaceTime, and Flash use running in Safari. Remind me later. Pass-through is there. Crud. Crud. So if I don't get this to work, let's see what this is doing. Well, that's supposed to be. What is it? What do I set that to? That's what I set it to. No, input is supposed to be right there. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast. Oh, let me mute this
What
one.
if you? I know there's nothing in there, but if you play back, do you hear nothing?
I hear nothing here. I just muted that music track so you could hear it.
Yeah, I don't hear
See
it.
this thing not bouncing?
Yeah.
When I'm recording, hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast. See how there's nothing down there?
Yeah.
So it is not recording. Why?
So it's not getting an audio input.
Right. But if I switch the audio input to, I could do something dangerous and set it to Hangout on Air input, but you need to really make sure you're muted. That shouldn't work either. Let's see what happens. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, and that's working. That makes no sense. But go ahead and talk, Steve.
Hi, this is Steve of the NosillaCast podcast. Is that picking? Oh, it's not picking it up.
Because that's an output, not an input. That's why. That's just, I'm sending to Hangout input, and so are you. That is not the Hangout on Air.
Okay.
Okay, well, I don't know why that's not working, but we have a workaround that will give me my cake and eat it too.
And there won't be a delay in that. That should be synced.
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All
right. Let's do. Let's see. We didn't do roll call. We've ran late so that we could give Kevin his let Kevin be late with his kitten. It is considered appropriate to add your kitten to your name, I think, though, right?
Or your Komodo dragon, as the case may be.
You could be Big Kitten in Virginia. All right, we got Steve and Kevin and Dave Ginsburg, who will be on the show today, and Dorothy and Rose and Sandy and Terry Vogg.
And George, who was here, I think he'll be back. Assuming
what's wrong with George? Why did he leave?
Komodo may have gotten. Oh, he's back.
The Komodo dragon got him, you think? Okay, let's go ahead and get ready. We kept people late after class last week, and I didn't want to do that again. Okay, mute yourself. Bye, dear. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, June 25th, 2017, and this is show number 633. This week, we've got a really interesting story about a new MacBook Pro from Dave Ginsburg. I've got a tiny tip for you, which is a new segment I plan on doing for the show, and the second half of my walkthrough of Affinity Photo for iPad. If anything, I love this program even more this week than I did last week. It is amazing. After that, we're going to wind up with Security Bits with Bart Busschots. Well, Chit Chat Across the Pond this week is another episode of Programming by Stealth with Bart Busschots. This is the first time this has ever happened. We recorded today on Sunday, and I didn't get a chance to produce the show before NosillaCast is coming out, so the NosillaCast is going to beat Chit Chat for the first time. Anyway, in Chit Chat Across the Pond, in Programming by Stealth, I got to tell you, I'm really proud of the fact that for the first time, I completed all of my homework before class. We had to write a program from scratch that passed all of the tests that Bart had written for the program. It took me 12 hours to do this, but more importantly, it took 4 hours or 4 hours of Dorothy's time helping me to do it. But I got her done. I feel really proud of myself, even though I absolutely positively could not have done it without Dorothy. We had a lot of fun doing it. It was actually pretty funny how we did it. We were in chat, and I think it was like a good 3 hours one night that she worked on it with me. Anyway, in this new installment, 36 of X, we learned some more HTML, specifically about all the cool things the input tag can do, like creating invisible forms, which is just weird, but also very cool what it can do. The challenge this week is kind of a flip on last week. Last week, he wrote the test, and we had to write a program that passed the test. But this week, he wrote the code, and we have to write the test. It's as challenging as all the rest, and it's just as fun. Check out either the full Chit Chat Across the Pond feed. You can find Programming by Stealth in there, or you can subscribe to just the Programming by Stealth feed in your podcatcher of choice. Well, this week I got to co-host iChart Radio with Mike LaPlante. I'm on a 6-week rotation as a co-host there, and it was finally my turn again. Unfortunately, I missed a turn, so it was a really long time between shows. Anyway, Mike and I discussed Apple doubling down on security. We talked about the new App Store and what that means. We talked about AirPods, and I managed to squeeze in Affinity Photo for iPad as another subject in there. iChart Radio can also be found in your podcatcher of choice, and it's spelled EYE Chart Radio. That's EYE Chart Radio, iChart Radio. I don't know if that made it more or less confusing. All right, let's see. Next up, David Ginsburg of the In Touch with iOS podcast sent in a really interesting story about macOS and a new computer that he got. Let's have a listen. This is really, really interesting what happened to him. Let's see. I think I'm going to throw a new crack.
I think he was trying to compete with your iPad Pro experience.
Well, it's different.
It's quite different, but
it's quite different, but really
not solved yet, right?
No, it isn't solved.
Neither is yours completely.
Oh, yeah. I still don't have my new iPad Pro. Killing me. Oh, John's stuck in.
John, there he is.
Oh, and George made it back in. George and his Komodo dragon. Oh, there it is. Big cat in Virginia. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, let me see. That might be okay. Let's hear how that sounds. Computer that he got. Let's have a listen. macOS and a new computer that he got. Let's have a listen.
Hi, Allison. This is David Ginsburg, and I wanted to tell you and your listeners about an experience I had with my brand new MacBook Pro 2017 model I had just purchased the same day the Worldwide Developers Conference occurred, and I received it on that Friday. I used the migration system to try to migrate all of the data from my old machine, and it seemed like it was going okay, and then all of a sudden it froze. I could not get the machine to boot no matter what I did. So, if anything, what I figured I'd do, I'd boot it up into the recovery partition and see if the machine would just erase and start over again. Well, never happened. I tried everything. I tried that as well as I tried to erase the solid state drive, and then I wanted to go to a bootable disk. Well, I couldn't create a bootable disk because the version that's provided on the App Store is considered the old version to this new machine. So Apple has not acknowledged this as of yet, and I was a little perturbed that I couldn't get this to work. So I ended up having to bring my first machine that I had just received on Friday into the Apple Store on Saturday, and they couldn't even boot it up in the Genius Bar because they didn't have the latest image of Sierra that was on this machine. So they gave me a brand new machine. I put it home. I figured, you know what the heck? Before I do anything, let me do a clone. So I cloned the drive with carbon copy cloner on an external drive, just as it was before I decided I wanted to migrate my data using the migration assistant again. Sure enough, it froze again. Well, at least this time I had a copy of the drive from carbon copy cloner, so I cloned it back onto the machine, and that seemed to work okay. So, of course, I threw up my hands and said, I am not going to migrate this over. Manually install all my apps, and I'm going to copy everything over, and I've learned my lesson. Probably will never use the migration assistant again. So I was curious. I wanted to see, well, why can't I download this version of Sierra onto this machine? Because what happens is when you go to the App Store on this machine, it says you can download it, and all of us have done this before. We download a copy of whatever the latest operating system is, and want to create a bootable USB thumb drive so you can boot it up and make changes or whatever you want to do. Well, as soon as you click it, it says you already have the most current version in here, and there's a button there. It says it says learn more. You click it, it does nothing. So I think to myself, okay, well, I wonder why this is happening. So what did I do? I talked to Apple support, and it got all the way to a level of them involving an Apple engineer, with them not even realizing this is the issue. And right now the case is still open as I'm recording this, but I kind of perplexed to see why they can't just give me that answer and be done with it. I've looked message boards, I've looked in the communities on Apple, and there's absolutely very little of any communication relates to this. So I thought, you know what? Let me get the Mac OS High Sierra, the beta. I don't want to put the beta on my machine, but I wanted to see if it would boot, if I would have created a bootable drive. So I did that. And I went and tried to boot my 2017 MacBook Pro to High Sierra. Sure enough, it worked. Of course, I wasn't going to install it. I just wanted just to verify that that's the case. Apple has not provided the most recent version of Sierra on the App Store. So I know beta 10.12.6 is due to come out pretty soon here. So then, of course, when that's released and that version is out there, it should be able to be available. Well, what good does that do me now? Because I want a copy of Sierra's in case I ever have to go back and do a fresh install again. So Apple, you weren't doing a good job when it comes to making sure that everybody had the most current version of Sierra for these machines. And I thought it was an interesting story, and hoping to hear back from Apple sometime this week because it's still an open case, and I did some reports and data to them. So and they're looking at it, but see what they say. At that time, 10.12 out. Thanks for listening to my story, and I really enjoy the show and appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good. All right. That was interesting. You want to select into that off there. All right. There we go. Don't know why it would not work. Yeah, Dave, that's sort of a even more fundamental problem, right? All right. Let me go ahead and record here. No tracks are enabled. What are you talking about? It is so enabled. Jeez. Okay, here we go.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I thought David's story was really interesting. In all my years with the Mac, I've never heard of Apple shipping a computer with an OS that was newer than what you could download. Well, after Dave sent this in, he got a response from his AppleCare associate who shockingly did hear back from engineering. I say shockingly because I never seem to get a response from engineering. When they send it off to there, it's a black hole. Anyway, here's what he or she sent to David. As it turns out, since this is a brand new 2017 MacBook Pro, it comes on a different build train than the previous model, as you mentioned that you noticed. Due to this fact, the version is slightly different from the one available through the Mac App Store. Because of this and some CPU-specific hardware or software, you are met with this alert instead of allowing you to proceed. With this said, they have opened an investigation. Apple engineering has received reports of this symptom and are investigating. Further updates, if any, may come by way of a software update, knowledge base article, or software release. I will follow up with you if I have any additional information. I know you mentioned you wanted the external bootable drive as a backup option. I wanted to remind you that you also have access to recovery, hard disk, and internet recovery should you need to reinstall OS at any time. Now, this is what I love is when you've explained something, and David obviously is very clear in his explanations. You just heard how clearly he speaks in general. I'm sure he had already pointed out to him or her that one of the problems with the recovery partition has the older OS built on it too. So he cannot use the recovery partition, the internet recovery. So he had told him or her that, and they still didn't get it. I really hope this gets fixed in 10.12.6 for David, but I've got another question here, and that is, it doesn't sound like they've ever answered, why did Migration Assistant cause this machine to fail so completely? I mean, that's something a lot of people use. I don't personally believe in it, and now I've got a little bit more reason, and it looks like David's never going to try it again, but why did that not work? I'm a little concerned that some of these things keep seeming to happen with the Mac lately. I don't want to say it's a trend, but I don't know. Something just seems funny to me. Well, I have a tip that is one of the most useful tips I will probably ever give you. And it's also one of the simplest. I've been wanting to give little tips from time to time like this. So I've created a new type of post. I'm calling it Tiny Tips. I even made it a little logo. All right. No, it's not going to be a spin-off podcast. They'd be like a minute long. Not going to do that. Too much work. All right, let's start with the problem to be solved, though. We all create temporary files for a myriad of different reasons. Maybe you export images from photos in a specific size just to post to social media. Or you print things to PDF just to send them to someone, but you don't actually need to keep that copy. There's a lot of reasons we do this, and most of us just plop them all on our desktops. A few of us have a tiny little folder they go in, but you know what? The clutter's still there. You've just really swept it under the rug. Eventually, we buckle down to clean up this mess we made for ourselves. But the problem is we have to open each document or image to figure out whether we really need to keep these. We procrastinate, fill up our drives with all this useless stuff. I have the solution. When you export things that you won't need later, name them Delete Me. That's the trick. If you save them with this name, you're telling future you, it's okay to delete these files. Isn't that brilliant? In this way, when you go to clean up, if you find a photo, even one of your adorable cherubic grandson, and it's named Delete Me, you know that a real copy is safe somewhere else because you told yourself it's okay to delete this. So this is just a throwaway version. It's pretty cool, am I right? But wait, there's an enhanced version of the idea. If you name everything Delete Me, after a while, you'll have multiple files all with the same name. Maybe some have version numbers after the name. You export a copy of that cherubic little boy and call it Delete Me, but there's already a test version of a logo you created with the same name. So when you go to attach the image to, a tweet or something like that, or to throw it up on Facebook, it's awfully hard to tell them apart. So here's the upper division version of my tip. Create a folder and call the folder itself Delete Me. Then whenever you're creating a throwaway file, just toss it in there with any old name you like. I'll even let you put your Delete Me folder on the desktop. That is, as long as you promise not to put anything else on the desktop. I drag the Delete Me folder into the left sidebar so it's right there for the choosing in any Save As dialog box. As though you hadn't gotten your money's worth yet out of this tiny tip already, I have one more enhancement to this idea. Get yourself a copy of Hazel from Noodlesoft.com and build an action that watches your Delete Me folder. Teach Hazel to simply throw away anything older than, say, 2 weeks old. It's okay to delete this stuff because you already made that decision by putting it in that temporary folder. So why ever be bothered with cleaning it out? I hope you find this tiny tip as useful as I do. Save.
I actually just started using that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Delete Me folder on my desktop.
Have you put anything in it yet, though?
Yeah. And I've deleted those things.
That's even better. That's great. Okay, Dave Ginsburg likes it. I'll have future me talking to him about his attitude. Future me's a real jerk. I don't like talking to him. You know what? I don't mind future me. It's past me that I have problems with. She's really, really annoying. I posted that on Facebook, and a link to it. And
John
what?
says, I deleted the Delete Me folder.
My daughter Lindsay posted, I had told her that idea a long time ago. At work, she had that problem because she always has to, I don't know what she does, whether she creates PDFs or something like that. And she always has them just annoying the heck out of her. And I told her about it and she was like, oh, that's brilliant. So anyway, she said nice things on Facebook about it. All right, Steve, it's time for you to go into a coma.
Coma coming.
Gonna learn about Affinity Photo for iPad, part 2.
Oh, everyone buckle in.
Had a huge weekend in Photoshop working on a rather large project using 2 other apps, and Delete Me is awesome. Yay! Oh, good. I'm glad you used it, Rose. Cool. Sandy's going to give it a try? Excellent. All right, here we go. I need one more sip of beer before we start that.
Yeah, you better have a couple sips.
This is delicious.
Excellent. You like the porters.
It had butt in the name. Now I remember it was Butte.
Butte.
Butt beer. Oh, Butte. Oh, okay.
Let's just stay with butt.
Ready, set, go, pod feet. Here we go. I'm on it. Last week, I told you about Affinity Photo for iPad, and I took a pretty good run at telling you everything it could do. But as I mentioned, one segment wasn't nearly long enough to do that. This is an incredibly powerful program. It's time to start up part 2 of my review/explanation of Affinity Photo for iPad. Before we dig in, I want to note that Serif, makers of Affinity Photo for iPad, Mac, and Windows, are not sitting on their laurels. These apps are in very rapid development. This is especially true of the iPad version. Just last week, I told you that the canvas rotation seemed backwards. A positive rotation number was counterclockwise. I wrote to them and they immediately wrote back and said essentially, yep, it's backwards. On to the dev team. That was great. And here's another example. Affinity Photo can stitch panoramas. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. I was going to tell you that the only thing I didn't like was that you had to pick each image one at a time. You had to drill down through your file system for each selection. But I posted a panorama on Twitter. Someone asked how easy it was on an iPad. I said it was great. It was really easy, but I noted that one little problem. Seraph, under the Twitter handle Mac Affinity, saw the tweet and wrote back, "We've just added multiple file selection in Panorama in our next release." So if I tell you about something doesn't work quite right, or I'd like to see it improved, do not be at all surprised if by the time you test it, it's working properly. This company, I should say, is responsive, brilliant, makes some spectacular products. I mean, just all the right things. The other thing I wanted to point out before I get into part two, and I didn't mention this last week, and I really should have, is that Affinity Photo for iPad is wicked fast. I've been jumping in and out of images to study the help files and doing all these complex operations, and it's so fast. Selections, brushes, filters, everything is really, really fast. And that's on a regular 9.7-inch iPad Pro. It's not on the new 10.5. It's not on the new 12.9, which I haven't got yet and gotten my new one yet. I'm really, really dying to get that. But anyway, it's on the regular 9.7-inch iPad Pro. Oh, I didn't mean to put something in here. I tested it on my daughter's Mac Mini, and even though you can download it to the Mac Mini, the App Store doesn't delineate between the devices, and the Mac Mini did not have the metal support that's required for Affinity Photo. So you won't be able to do this, at least on whatever generation Mac Mini she was on. So, your mileage may vary. I think it might be a little small to do photos anyway. All right, let's kick in. In part one, I told you about the tools down the left side, and I told you the studios were down the right side. To refresh your memory, studios are things like filters, layer effects, and brushes. Across the top is what you'll find with Seraph, makers of Affinity Photo, called personas. Think of personas as different modes. It's kind of an unusual term, but I could definitely demystify it for you. Up until now, we've been working in the photo persona. Everything I told you last week was the photo persona, which is designated by the Affinity Photo logo. One button over is a little lasso. This is the selection persona. I think they separated selection into its own persona to make the menus less complicated, less cluttered, and to allow them to keep targets for the tools big enough that they're easily tappable even on the 9.7-inch iPad with big fat fingers. I have not been using my Apple Pencil, by the way. I've been doing everything with my finger, and I found that really interesting when I realized it because I could have reached for it and I just didn't feel the need. Well, speaking of iPad size, let me squeeze in here the fact that some of the contextual menus that come up on the bottom of the screen are slightly different on the 9.7-inch iPad Pro than what you'll see if you watch the video tutorials that come with Affinity Photo for iPad. The demos are done on a 12.9-inch iPad Pro, which is obviously a lot bigger than the 9.7. The contextual menus are wide on the 12.9-inch, but they're narrow on the 9.7, and thus missing what you're going to see in the demos. Took me a while to figure this out. But if you're using a 9.7-inch, keep your eye out for a teeny tiny itsy bitsy white triangle pointing to the right. It's not in the menu area, in the contextual menu area that's a dark gray, but it's actually on your image. So the first time I was looking for it, I had kind of a light image, so I couldn't see that there was even an arrow there. This arrow reveals the rest of the contextual menus that wouldn't fit on screen. It's a great solution to do it that way, but the arrow is not as obvious as I would like, and I will be penning a little note to them, and I'm sure they'll improve that. Well, with the selection persona selected, the studios down the right-hand side are unchanged, but most of the tools in the left sidebar are completely new. Instead of the paint bucket, dodge and burn, eraser, and clone tool, instead we see all selection tools. Remember, you can always use the question mark in the bottom right-hand corner of any persona to reveal the names of all the tools and menus. So on the left-hand sidebar, you've got a nice smart selection brush that lets you kind of swipe around with your finger to select a region. Keep an eye on those contextual menus I mentioned at the bottom for things like snap to edges, whether to add or subtract to the selection, and the width of your selection brush. Smart Selection worked great on a bright blue sky with mountains below, but of course, your mileage may vary. Noticed a really weird typo. Worked. Steve, can I have you take a quick note and look for this?
What?
In this article, look for orked. ORKED.
Should be borked?
No, it should be worked.
Oh.
A good question.
You use borked a lot.
I do use borked. So
What?
it's
Borked.
under selection persona, but if you just do a search for orked,
I'm on
ORKED.
it.
Thank you. You don't have to edit it right now, but
I'm doing it.
Okay.
Is that going to cause you a problem if I edit
It will
now?
not cause me any problems. Very.
There it is.
Orked.
Borked.
All right. Here we go. There's a polygon marquee tool followed by a geometric marquee tool. I think the first one's kind of misnamed because it's got things like magnetic connections to edges, while the geometric ones are clearly rectangles and ovals and such. I didn't find the magnetic one very intuitive, but I'm going to have to give more of a play with it to see if I'm missing something. You can also select by color tolerance as well. The next three tools are not selection tools at all. They modify existing selections. That confused the heck out of me at first because you got selection tools, but then modify selection tools. So let's say I use the magic selection brush to select the sky separate from the mountains on a landscape photo. After making that selection, I can use the feather tool to make it less of a harsh line selection. I can use the grow shrink tool to create a selection that's offset from the original. Now, I don't know whether you'd use that very much in photography. I suspect it's really useful in doing artwork. The smooth selection tool does exactly what it says. It smooths out the curve of your selection. You can also select an outline of a specific radius away from your selection. But the coolest selection tool of all is saved for last. It's called the Refine Selection tool. So let's go back to that picture I had with the sky and the mountains in front of it. I've got the sky selected, but there's a few trees in the foreground on one side. The sky should be showing through the trees, but it's not selected. All you do is tap on the Refine Selection tool. After you selected the sky, you then tap on the Refine Selection tool, change the brush size to something anywhere near the size of what you're trying to point out to the program, and then just swipe over it with that big fat finger. You grab some of what you want to select and some of what you want deselected. You're going to have to see this to believe it, but it blinks away for a second while it refines the selection and it changes to exactly what you meant. I have no idea how it does this, but it's magic. I tested this on a picture of a little girl, and using refined selection around her hair and inside her elbow worked spectacularly well. So this is where she was in front of gravel on one side, and there was like bushes and leaves and grass and stuff on the other side, and it worked incredibly well. I was really surprised. I even had to erase around a shadow that didn't get picked up quite right. I do have to say that while I was working on it, it looked like it was leaving this awful fringe of color around the edges of her. So I kept working and trying to refine it. And I was like, oh man, this doesn't work like in the demo. So I closed it and I walked away from it. When I went back to the image later, it was perfect. So I don't know if it was a temporary glitch or what was going on, but it worked really, really well. One of the tricky bits of using Infinity Photo for iPad is that it's hard to figure out what to do once you've selected something. Let's say I want to copy that sky and I want to paste it into another image, or I want to add a new layer to this image with just that selected sky. There's no copy or paste buttons here. In the top menu to the left of the persona buttons is a button with 3 dots on it called Commands. It's easy to miss and easy to forget where it is. The things inside the Commands menu change depending on the persona you're in as well. I think I get confused by the Commands menu because the first few commands don't always or usually are not those things that I'm looking for. Let's go back to our sky selection example. To copy that selection to a new layer, you tap on Commands, and at the very bottom of that list, you'll see Selection as Layer. Tapping that will reveal 5 more options: toggle edit selection layer, and 4 ways to show the mask as an overlay, as black, as white, or as transparent. Also in the Commands menu is the option to deselect. Command D doesn't work even if you have a keyboard, and you can reselect, invert selection, or select as well. Okay, I have to find an email from somebody. I got to call out this guy. I think his name's Rick Abraham. If I mess this up, that's Abraham, right? Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Which persona are you on? Or where
I'm down. Let's see. I just finished the selection persona.
Okay.
I'm actually adding a piece that's not in the text.
Uh-oh. I can't follow along.
Okay, it'll be real quick, and we're going to go to liquefy. There's a great joke in liquefy you'll like. Okay, here we go. Let's see. After I posted the blog post about this section, I got a notice from Rick Abraham, who's also in an Affinity Photo Facebook group with me, and we were kind of chatting offline about different things we were learning. He pointed out you can tap with 2 fingers on your selection, and you'll get other options. And some of the options that you see up in commands are actually in that 2-finger tap. And I think that's actually a little bit easier way to say, okay, I'm going to actually touch on that thing I want to copy. So that's maybe a better way to go. So still discovering stuff, and I really thank Rick for his help on that. The next persona is called liquefy, and I'm going to be very brief on this. Liquefy is made to allow you to distort images. You know the way they take a photo of a model, they make her eyes really big, and they extend the length of her legs, and then they shrink some bits, and they expand other bits? That's what liquefy is for. You can bulge and pinch and push left and push right, and have a jolly good time making little girls everywhere develop poor body images. Kidding, mostly. If you photograph in the RAW format rather than JPEG, your images will automatically open in the Develop persona in Affinity Photo for iPad. In the Develop persona, you have access to some tools that are not available in the Photo persona, like a tool to fix lens distortion. You can also work on the RAW image to correct chromatic aberration and defringing. There's also some very traditional tools like healing and blemish brushes and red eye reduction. Personally, I can't think for the life of me. I can't picture someone who uses a digital camera shooting in RAW, having red eye problems, but I suppose it happens. You'll also find detail enhancement, I'll get this right, tone curves, and overlays for masking. Most of these tools appear in slightly different forms in the Photos persona, so I'm not entirely clear on why you'd want to do them in the Develop persona. I've asked a lot of people and read a lot of discussions on the topic of using a RAW image editor first, and I can't seem to find a consensus on one over the other. The answer is often, it depends. It might be better to defringe and develop, but then again, in the Photo persona, you could defringe in a live filter layer, so maybe that's more flexible for your needs. But it depends. So if you know what I'm talking about, you probably have your own opinion on RAW image editing, and I'd actually love to hear a definitive answer of what you should do in which one of these personas. By the way, this isn't something specific to Affinity. This is in Photoshop. They've got a RAW image editor, so it's the same kind of thing. Well, believe it or not, you can actually tone map an Affinity Photo for iPad. There's an entire persona for it. You have control for contrast, exposure, and other enhancements to create your effect by hand, or you can choose from a series of presets. If you're not familiar with tone mapping, that's a technique that allows you, mostly with RAW photos, to pull out highlights and shadows, change the detail edges, and more. It can be used to make a good photo great, or it can be used to create a very stylized HDR-ish effect. Now, HDR, or high dynamic range, is done with multiple images, while tone mapping can be done on a single image. Now, I've described the great majority of the capabilities in Affinity Photo for iPad, but I haven't told you much about how we get in and out of our images. There's a Documents menu at the top right next to the Personas and Commands menu. The first option in the Documents menu is to allow you to convert your document to different color spaces like P3 versus RGB, if you care about that sort of thing. Is anybody else hearing a tick? Every once in a while, I'm hearing like a tick, tick. I don't know if it's my headphones.
I'm not hearing it.
Okay, I just found a missing parenthesis in the first paragraph of the Documents menu. Steve, if you'd like to fix that. You see it? If you care about that sort of thing. Can you see it, Steve? Okay, you guys don't hear ticks.
I see it, and I don't hear a tick. And I'll fix it.
I just heard it again. Right when you said tick, I heard it again.
Nope.
Weird. Okay. Maybe it's not the recording. Let's hope so. I can't do anything about it right now anyway. Thank you, dear. Also in the Documents menu is where you can export to 10 different formats. The usual suspects, like PNG and JPEG, but you can also export to Photoshop's native format. You can use uncompressed TIFFs, you can export to uncompressed TIFFs, or vector graphics, things like SVG. And of course, more menus to modify these formats than I possibly have time to describe to you. That export option also includes a traditional iOS share button for sending to social media and storing in other locations, including cloud storage. Amongst many other options, I'd like to draw your attention to the wrong cadence to my voice. I am still hearing that. What is that? Rose leaving us? All right. Including cloud storage. Amongst many other options, I'd like to draw your attention to the Assistant under the Documents menu. I'm a big fan of the Assistant, which is enabled by default, but which you can choose to disable. The Assistant basically does things for you if you forget to do them yourself. Perfect example is like, let's say you go to Paint, but you don't have a layer selected. With the Assistant turned on, it will create a new pixel layer for you and let you start painting, and it will notify you that it helped you out. You can enable and disable all of the different options in the Assistant individually if you find some behaviors annoying. And some of them, they have different options to choose from within those separate options, if that makes any sense. I don't need to be stopping this much. I just did a goofy thing with my fingers and confused myself here. I purposely wrote up both of these articles by jumping right into editing images. I wanted to get you excited about the tool first and leave you with haunting questions about how you would get to your images. So let's start at the beginning, where I could have started, at the opening screen of Affinity Photo for iPad. Serif includes an interactive introduction that's pretty cool. They sort of show you how to do something, and then you can actually play with it yourself with your finger. It's really kind of interesting. Then they have a bunch of video tutorials that are fairly good, and some sample images to play with. Other than that, you have a big plus sign on the page just inviting you to push it. If you do push it, you get some obvious choices, like to create a new document. But you also have the option of importing directly from Apple Photos or importing from cloud services. The cloud button takes you to iCloud Drive by default, but if you tap on locations, you can switch to Dropbox or OneDrive or whatever cloud storage you have installed on your iPad. At this time, the export options from within Affinity Photo for iPad are a little bit messed up. You can export to iCloud Drive, but sometimes it'll only let you export to folders you've created, not, for example, the one Affinity Photo creates for itself. I understand they're aware of this and working on it, so it's possible by the time you try it, it might be fixed. In that same screen where you can import images, you also have some high-end tools, the ones that were only recently added to Affinity Photo for Mac and Windows in version 1.5. In here, you'll find that you can stitch a panorama by selecting images from your cloud services. It works really, really well. Other than perfect stitching with no visible artifacts, my favorite feature of the panorama tool is that there's a tool there that's called crop to opaque bounds. That means it will auto crop your panorama to get rid of, that weird stuff you get at the top and bottom where your images aren't lined up correctly, so you don't get a nice rectangle. If you do a crop to opaque bounds, it stuffs it into the largest rectangle it can crop to. It works beautifully. And did I mention fast? Well, you can also create a new stack, which is a tool that allows you to take a bunch of images of the same thing from the same perspective, and Affinity Photo removes anything that's moving between the different images. Think of trying to take a picture of a famous monument and people keep walking in front of it. Just take a whole bunch of photos and stick them in a new stack, and Affinity Photo will erase those annoying people and give you one image with the stuff that stayed still. This is a super high-end tool. You can do it on an iPad. You can also do a focus merge, which is really fun. That stacks a bunch of very shallow depth of field images into one photo that has a very shallow depth of field, but a little bit deeper. Anyway, you can create high dynamic range or HDR merges using images of different exposures. You can even take a photo with your iPad and bring it in. Not too many people care to do it, but you know what? Once in a while, you might need it. Every time you import an image into Affinity Photo for iPad, it ends up being a rather big thumbnail on that home page. You can imagine that after a while, you'd get a lot of clutter. Push the plus button and you can create a new project, which is actually just a folder. Back on the homepage, you can tap and hold on the images, and they do that jiggle jiggle dance, so you can drag them into the project folders to keep them organized. Each image and project folder also has a little hamburger menu, and from that, you can rename those items or delete them. On the same home screen, there's a gear for global settings. In here, you can change things like your undo limit, how often it autosaves, and a few other fun things like changing the color of the gray background, or you can switch to left-hand mode if you're of that persuasion. Finally, you can get right into help from this screen. The little question mark in the top right takes you to an indexed help file with chapters that also has a glorious search box. It's very well written and really helped me learn how to use the tool, because they don't, some of the vendors, they put a tool in and they just tell you the name of it, but they don't tell you what it looks like, so you don't know which one they're talking about because you don't know their terminology. This one, they have all the tools, all the names, they have little images showing you how to use it, and it works really, really well. Well, if I haven't convinced you yet that Affinity Photo for iPad is worth the $20, I'm pretty much not sure what else you'd want it to do. By the way, that $20 price goes up to $30 on June 29th. So if I have convinced you that you need it, do not delay.
So Daniel and Richard from Alaska joined us.
Oh, hi guys. How are you? Oh, now that Rose left,
No, Rose wasn't leaving. She was just saying she's gonna need to take a trip to the store.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. She is still there. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought for a minute we were getting outnumbered. We might be outnumbered though, girls. Sandy, Rose, Dorothy, Alice. Oh yeah, they're beating us now. Well, that's okay. If you got a tech podcast and you're even close to 50-50 women, I think we're having fun.
Oh, Richard's on his vacation and I made a mistake. It's not 1 month, it's 3 months. I forgot about that.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
That's tremendous.
Forgot about that. That's pretty fun. Now you know what retirement feels like.
Yeah, he's going to get a taste.
Okay, I think it's time for some music, security bits. So Steve's going to pick out some music for my new Tiny Tips segment.
Tiny bubbles. No.
Tiny, yeah, little bubbles, but tiny
There's
tips.
Probably a copyright problem with that.
Tiny bubbles. No, I was just thinking there were tiny bubble noise. Like,
oh, literally. Okay.
that's stupid. Delay. You need it. Do not delay. Is that too soon? Half a breath.
A bit.
Not delay. All right, where's security bits? What do I do with it? Oh, that's not good. Oh, that's not good at all. It is in the trash. That was close, you guys.
You might want to pull it out of the trash.
Yeah. Oh, that's really close.
Where you almost deleted the trash?
No, hang on. I had a bunch of. Man, that's an hour. That really is chit chat. Let me put that in chit chat. Is this one? That's 7 seconds. So I don't think that's real. Yeah, that's not it. So when did I record chit chat? I recorded it on
I'm gonna
Thursday,
be back.
Friday the 23rd.
I'll be back. I forgot to put the rice on.
Okay. Where's the trash? This is not good. Date created. What's today's chit chat? Where is it? It does have weird things on it. Oh no. This isn't good. The date. What date did I record security bits? Security bits we did on Thursday the 22nd. So it's one of these files. Why did these have? Uh-oh. Was it 2:30? That's not it. That could be it. Why are there... Drag all these to someplace. I know I'm not making any sense. It's because I'm panicking. Why do they have those weird dates and times on them? 2.6 megabytes. That's not good. 390 megabytes. Now we're talking. So far, sounding good. Found it. Shoo. Wow. What's that other one? I don't know what that is. All right. 1606. But I didn't empty the trash today, and I don't use Time Machine. Okay. Panic. Stop panicking, everybody. It's fine. We're fine. Nothing is wrong. We're okay. It's all fine. I know you were worried.
Were you supposed to panic?
Well, we almost didn't have security bits. I would have had to wait till tomorrow to produce the show because Bart has a copy.
Just recover some of those bits, throw them up on the screen.
There you go. Bits. I get it. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Security Bits with Bart Bouchat. So we're going to have some fun today, Bart?
I hope so, even though it's...
All right. I just read what Komodo George 2 said. Look and delete me. Yeah, it was close. It was actually in the trash. Whew, that was a close one. Yeah, I'm not always as good as I should be at moving things out of this one folder to another folder. And I just have an audio hijack file where stuff just goes in, and I forget sometimes to move it. And so then I have to go look for it. I should probably make its own folder. All right.
Don't call it delete me.
Yeah, really. Now I need, so that was that. Oh, wait. Crud. Crud. I didn't follow my own script, everybody. That's the wrong one. Where's the show I'm talking to? This one. I forgot to plug Patreon. Okay, now I know how to fix this. Why is that not working? Function command left arrow should work. All right, we'll go this way. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna mute that track. I'm gonna mute that track. Steve,
I'm what?
Your job just got more complicated. Your job is gonna be to remind me to unmute these two tracks.
The two tracks being?
It's going to be the Security Bits music and the Security Bits track.
All right.
Okay, those both are going to be muted so that I can record on my own track. And then we will slide those over to compensate. What could possibly go wrong? Save before I do this. Here we go.
Sausage in the making.
You betcha. We had some good sausage tonight. I got to say, you guys have been absolutely fabulous using the Amazon affiliate links over at podfeet.com to help support the show. When you use those links, a small percentage of the price you pay comes back to help pay things like the hosting fees and other costs associated with creating the show. I can't tell who bought what, which is good, but I can see a list of what people have bought. It's pretty fun to scroll through and see what's in the list. Recently, people bought books, candy, microphone cables, microphone stands, refrigerator water filters, USB thumb drives, flash triggers, batteries, embroidery supplies, music CDs, address labels, and bird food. So if you think you can only use the Amazon affiliate links to buy tech toys, even bird food helped bring $5.29 in to help pay for things like Bluehost and Libsyn. I want to thank all of you who choose to help the show out in this way. If you'd like to do the same, you can go over to podfeet.com and push the button that says ways to help the show, or what does it say? Support the show. And it'll show you where to find your Amazon affiliate link. Thank you to all of you for doing that. Okay, what the heck was Steve doing? Why was Steve in the room?
That was sausage in the making.
Oh, did you go play with the sausage grinder?
Yeah.
Oh, it was behind my head. They might not be able to see it. Sausage grinder's right here.
That's why I had to get it off the mantle and show it to him again.
What'd you do? Just
Because
show.
you're hiding it.
Okay. So now what do I tell me to unmute those tracks? Unmute and unmute. What?
I'm watching the delayed video that they're all watching right now.
Oh, so you're seeing yourself run back?
Yeah.
Great. At least he entertains himself. Hi, Tessa. How you doing, T-Dog? Tessa. Okay. Oh, that was quite the flap. Okay, let me see if this sounds right. Thank you to all of you for doing that. Too soon. Over a little bit. How about that? All of you for doing that. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for, okay, that's good. So now command function right arrow. I'm so excited. I wrote to the developer of Hindenburg. You okay? What was that? You okay? Tessa made a weird noise.
I'm fine.
You're fine? Okay, good. I'm glad you're doing okay. All right. I think it's time for me to wind us out. Here we go.
And stay secure.
Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Do not forget to send in your dumb questions, comments, and suggestions by emailing me at allison@podfeet.com. And you can follow me on Twitter @podfeet. Remember, everything good starts with podfeet.com/whatever you're looking for. We've got podfeet.com/Patreon, podfeet.com/Facebook, podfeet.com/Google+, podfeet.com/Amazon. We even have podfeet.com/Fun with Flags. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, which, by the way, you can do even when you're on vacation, like Richard in Alaska did this week, head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic Nosilla castaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. Now you've seen exactly how short my...
Podfeet.com/Fun with Flags.
Yes.
I think that's... Didn't like Big Bang Theory
Sheldon got that?
Sheldon got that, right?
Oh. Was Richard there when I used his name, or when
I don't know. He joined right about when you were saying it. I'm not, but I was watching the advanced video. I think he got back in time because
good.
Yeah, I think he's...
And you now see how short my short-term memory is from the time you said that till I said it, and I knew I wanted to talk to you. I was like, what is his name? Jeez. So sad.
I think
it was fun. I think it worked. Outro music. And we'll slide you over. So let's see. I think we're good. Wait, what the heck is going on here? That's the wrong. What did I just drag in here? I don't know what that is. That looks too long. Unless, there we go. NosillaCast outro music. That looks better. Right head was too long. Okay. I do have to find out whether it's got control points for Steve. I'm trying to convince Steve to start using Hindenburg because he likes GarageBand, but GarageBand be dead.
You're already influencing me a little bit more than I'm comfortable with.
Oh, with the whole trackpad issue?
Well, first the delete me folder, which I haven't done, and now the trackpad. I'm now using a trackpad for the first time in my life, and it's pretty cool.
So I told Steve he's got to do a review called trackpad use by a recovering mouse user.
The thing that I think the most is I don't have to go down and hit the option or control keys many times when I used to with it.
To right click.
Yeah, right clicks.
Well, don't spoil it, Steve. You're going to do a review for next week's show.
Listen, for goodness sake.
Let me hear this. Hang on. And stay subscribed. That's the wrong point. It's supposed to be there, and then go like there. How about that? That's better. Oh, Sandy makes a good point. Don't need a lot of desk space, right?
Right. I guess it's confined. Depends on how much you move your mouse around, but if you want to go across the screen. takes a little less real estate, unless you pick up your
Yeah.
mouse. But I hate picking up a mouse.
Yeah, click, click, click. And your desk was getting all that weird black
I
goop
have
on
to
it.
clean it every once in a while. I don't use a
Yeah.
mouse pad.
Yeah, who would? Export. NosillaCast. I think we are just about a wrap here, kids. Oh, that was fun. Sandy
Did you-
loves her magic trackpad. So do I. The new one is really, really nice.
Yeah, it feels like glass.
Maybe because it is.
Well, and
All
then I realized I've had a MacBook Pro and a MacBook Air that, well, I don't know if my MacBook Air had it, but my Pro certainly does,
You wonder if it had a trackpad?
that had this functionality all along, which I never used. It was right there at my fingertips. So now,
Are you starting to use it on the MacBook Pro
oh,
now?
yeah. Yeah,
Oh, good.
finally.
I was afraid to tell you about it. You know, because
Mhm.
of the yelling and all. I hate trackpads. I'd have him work on my
Get off my desktop.
my lawn. Oh, very definitely fun, David. Anytime you want to do a review or anything, you guys didn't hear that click just then?
I heard a beep from your room.
A beep?
Yeah,
No, there was no
got it.
beep.
I heard an external beep from your room.
Nope. You
Outside my
hallucinated that. All right. I think we should let the class go. It is 6:01. It's after class. We should let everybody go. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. Goodbye. Mwah. Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.